Hey, you're listening to the Coffee O'Clock podcast, the show that brings you joy and inspiration, with special guests from all around the world who have an amazing story and expertise to evolve your personal and professional life. I am your host, Burcu Onaranel, the founder of Joy Marketing and Coaching. Make sure you grab your coffee and get ready to explore new ideas. Let's get started. Hello, everyone. Another Coffee O'Clock podcast. Today, I have a very special guest. She is Tania Gonzalez-Ortega. She is the Master of Transformation in New Earth Consciousness. New Earth Consciousness is her company. What we're going to talk about is the question, did you know your childhood wounding is keeping you from your fullest potential? Hi, Tania, welcome.
Hi, Burcu. Welcome. Yes, thank you.
How are you?
I'm doing great. Yeah, happy to be here.
Happy to have you. Cheers. I see you
So,
are holding your cup.
yes, I have my mushroom cup, naked lady mushroom cup going on.
Nice. Mine is super simple, but a little colors here. I introduced you a little bit, but can you share a little bit of who you are, what you do with our audience?
Yeah. So, it's always interesting when people ask, like, who are you? And it's like, it's like sometimes can be challenging. What do I say? But in a nutshell, I would say that I'm a highly sensitive person. Since we're going to be talking about childhood wounding, definitely as a young child, highly sensitive, very introverted. Um, and in my 20s, I was very much drawn to spirituality. I started asking questions about reality and myself. And so I kind of ended up in the world of energy and energy healing. And I've learned a couple of different modalities, and ultimately I have been led to family constellations work, which we'll talk about with the childhood wounding and how that works, and also light language activations, meditations, things like that. So so that's me in a nutshell. I have a background in Waldorf education. I'm also an artist. My husband and I have an organic goat dairy together. So definitely multi-passionate person and totally into this time that we're in, which is, as humanity, we are shifting into this huge awakening. It's like humanity is getting primed for the next expression of the human being. So
Yes, amazing. I can't wait to talk to you about all those things you mentioned. But my first question is, how did you get into it? What was the turning point or a milestone you can tell that you got into healing, energy, and other amazing stuff?
yeah, so back in my 20s, I was dealing with a mild depression, and I went to a counselor who said, "Oh, you should try yoga." Now, backing up my childhood, like most people, grew up in a dysfunctional family. It's not uncommon. Um, so I took the counselor's advice. I went into yoga, and so I started on that path. And during that time, very quickly, I unexpectedly had a kundalini awakening, and which was extremely challenging physically. And because I went from being healthy to suddenly like all kinds of crazy symptoms, like losing weight, hair falling out, My digestive system turned upside down, like all these things. And I was also um, kind of blown wide open. I was suddenly having experiences that was showing me that, oh, there's more to this world than what meets the eye. And so it was a deep, I would say it was a purification process. It lasted a couple years. But during that process of dealing with all these very uncomfortable symptoms, I would call it a dark night of the soul. And what and I tried everything, I tried going to an acupuncturist, I tried going to a regular doctor, I tried Ayurvedic doctor, anything and everything. And the only thing that brought me relief during that time was Reiki. I went, which I'd never heard of, and it was just by coincidence. This woman said, "Hey, you should go see, this woman. She's a clairvoyant. She does Reiki." And I said, "Sure, I'll try anything." So I went, and she laid her hands on me, and it was like, whew, like I could just feel this calming energy. So I was dealing with a lot of high anxiety during that time, and just felt the energy. And so that led me on the path of like, whoa, what is this? I've never, I had no context. My family, my dad was atheist. My mom, she wasn't necessarily very spiritual, never talked about energy, anything like that. So it just, yeah, so I ended up discovering the world of energy. And so I got training in Reiki. And then from then on, I just kind of, it became a passion. And so I just kept wanting to learn more and more and more about it.
Yes. As a Reiki healer, also, I know how amazing it is. And it is just a gift that we can learn from the person who is handed to this. So,
Yeah.
how do you work with your clients?
Yeah. So I bring in family constellations work. That's kind of my main modality right now. I also do the um, light language, sound healing work. But mostly when I work one-on-one with people, I bring in the family constellations work. So what I discovered through learning that modality was, oh, I actually can see into someone's, mm, well, I would call it in family constellations, they call it the knowing field. But I realized that I can receive information through images, through words, through feeling physical sensations in my body, and um, and that's part of family constellations work. So um, it's a way to sense into the knowing field, and so um, you can use family constellations to address uh, things that you're struggling with, whether it's relationship, whether it's finances, whether it's a physical issue, and by tapping into the knowing field in this process, then you can actually see what's going on. And so the beauty of that is that the client doesn't have to go into the story about it. I don't have to sit there like typical counseling would be, you sit there, you tell your story, it's a lot of talking, the counselor listens. And this is kind of the other way around. The client brings in the issue and what they would like to, what the goal is, like what the intention, what the desire of the outcome is, and and then they just get to sit back and listen and see how it resonates and so the energy also starts shifting for them, and they might have a kind of like a paradigm shift. They'll have an experience of like, oh, this is what's really going on. Oh, I can let go of this pattern, that pattern. Um, I don't have to, divorce myself from my family. And I think that's kind of the core family constellations is restoring the order of love in your family of origin and with your ancestors. So sometimes some of the things that you're dealing with is actually ancestral trauma that's getting passed down that you're having to live through. Um, so so yeah, we dive into that, and it's very organic and spontaneous. I never know what's going to happen in a session or what's going to show up. Um, but yeah, we just bring in the different representations. So you might bring in your mother and your father and your brother and yourself. And so I tap into each person and I just describe, okay, when I step into the field of your mother, this is what I'm feeling. Maybe I'm feeling not so happy about my husband, or I feel, whatever it is that's coming out, could be anything. And then by having conversations between you and each of these members, you can start to disentangle from the things that are out of order. Um, so it's kind of like it's definitely working within the quantum, right? Because you're not actually dealing with the actual people themselves, which isn't necessary. It's not like family therapy, like, okay, we're going to bring the whole family together and try to like hash it out. Um, just by you shifting your own perspective and disentangling from those energetics, there's a shift that happens in the field. It happens within yourself first. And oftentimes, um, through that experience, then the dynamics with your family actually can begin to change as well, without you having to have like, you know, the difficult conversations or, butting heads or trying to make something happen. It's just you go through a shift internally, which then naturally, then you're like in the field, when you think about energy, as you shift inside, then of course the world around you is going to shift as well. So it's really, yeah, I just love it. It's very eye-opening, and oftentimes, um, in a constellation, I don't want a whole lot of information, because I want what wants to come through to be untainted by my own projections and ideas of the situation. So I just ask for basic facts. And what's really yeah, amazing is that as I go through the constellation, oftentimes the client will say, "Oh, yes, that's very accurate." Like, "Oh, yes, my mother would say something like that," or, um, so it opens up the world of possibility. And yeah, it's like, oh, there's a way to heal that doesn't have to take years and years and years of therapy, you know? So yeah. And then with
That
yeah, and with the light language is just that's just a gift that has happened, which is another conversation I could go into. And but
yes.
uh, but it's all energy, you know.
You answered already one of my questions, but I want to ask you again. When you do family constellation, you are opening the person's energy, of course, and then you said it shifts the people's energy around that person as well. But does that solve the issue, let's say, between the mom and daughter, or like would that affect the mother if the daughter is having a session with you?
Sometimes it can and sometimes it doesn't. So I'll share an example of one woman who came to me whose son was dealing with a drug addiction. And he was a young man. And as the mother, she was very distressed and wanted to do something about it. And I said, well, I can't do a constellation for him. He's an adult, you know, but we can do a constellation for you around this. And perhaps there can be something revealed about what's going on with your son. And so we did the constellation, and saw that there was some kind of pattern being passed down from the grandfather to her son, and for her to be able to see herself in relationship to the dynamics and letting go of what wasn't serving her. um, the session in of itself was very healing for her. She's like, oh, this is very helpful, like, oh, this makes a lot of sense. And then I think it was 2 weeks later, she emailed me and she said, my son just called me and said he's ready to go into rehab, which before he was very resistant, very, adamant, like, I don't want to do that. Um, and I truly believe it's because there was a shift in the field, right, of the family. Like he finally realized, like, oh, my family's not against me, they're for me, and I'm ready to heal. But sometimes the person doesn't change. Sometimes, some people, the 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 mom and dad might be very, very unconscious, you know. Maybe they were extremely abusive, and yeah, the client doesn't want anything to do with their parents.
Mm.
Um, but what then can happen is that you can, um, reclaim your power, and at the very least honor them for the life that they've given you, because they did give you life ultimately, right? And that there is love there in in the lineage. But it can just sort of like, oh, like I have a free will and choice. Like I don't have to relate to my mother in that way anymore. Maybe she continues to be, you know, totally unconscious and addicted and whatever. Um, so it's not always that it changes um, the other people, but it definitely allows you to reclaim your own energy and reclaim your life so that you can move forward and without having to deal with this negativity. Yeah, so it can go either way. Yeah, it's a good question.
Who can come to you? Like everybody who doesn't have an issue necessarily can come to you, or do they have to bring some specific issue to you to have the family consultation?
Yeah, we can, I mean, definitely address any issue. I find that most people that come to me, um, they're either, struggling in relationship, maybe feeling unsatisfied, they're feeling disconnected from their purpose, um, uh, dealing with, some anxiety and maybe depression. It just gets to a point, when, through our childhood, it's like things happen to us, right? And as children, we're not equipped to deal with those things, right? We're not equipped to handle what happens when somebody's mean to you, or your parents treating you this way, or whatever. You have certain trauma. Your child self just does the best that she can, and what ends up happening is then she starts to identify with the things that happen to her. Like, oh, this happened to me. That must mean that I'm unworthy, or that must mean that I'm unlovable, or I'm not good enough, and so you start forming these beliefs. Then, and then you get to your adulthood, and then you wonder why. Yeah, why do I feel so stuck? Why do I feel so overwhelmed? It's because it's like you've been piling up this stuff within you that none of it actually belongs to you. Because the truth of it is, it's like the truth of who you are is that you are, we're all children of God. We're all here to express and be in our joy, and, you know, f- um, follow our passions and do what lights us up. But if we're dealing with all these negative beliefs that we're carrying, that makes us doubt ourselves or question, or, we have to kind of, what family constellations does is it just removes those things, like, see, this doesn't belong to you. Like, this is not yours. This isn't yours. This isn't yours. And so you kind of, and then the energy shifts, and then you start to feel who you really are. And you're like, oh, yes, okay, I can let go of that fear of being seen, or I can let go of the fear of judgment of others, and I can, you know, um, get to know who I really am, and go forward in life.
That's amazing. And it's amazing to just listen to you. Your voice is just so calming, and your energy, your presence. I just want to sit here and listen to you.
I've been told that before.
Yes,
Yeah,
it's a gift. It's a gift that you have, and probably all the trainings and tools that you're using, you just have this aura in you, and it's amazing. work that you do. I've been to family constellation once,
Hmm.
and even though it was online, I wasn't somebody who believes in it. Even though I know Reiki and I do Reiki, I wasn't really into it. I didn't know what was going to happen. So, and it happened. It really affected me from the screen from another country, and I was alone in my office, and I was, going down and back and forth. It was interesting. So it definitely works. And um what do you want to share with our audience, like who can come to you, and maybe if you have anything coming up, any offer, how people can find
Yeah.
you, all the things.
Yeah. So yeah, I offer, I do mostly one-on-one family constellations. So yeah, there's different ways to do family constellations. You can do it in a group as like a workshop, like you said, like online with a lot of different people, and which is I love that work. Um, but I do mostly one-on-one, so I'm doing all the representing the client. Just listen, and that approach is great for people who say, are feeling a little tender and they don't really want everybody to know like what's going on with them, right? So it's definitely more private. Um, and yeah, and so right now, like my main signature program is it's called Reignite Your Life, and it's a 3 month like deep dive one-on-one. So if you're like, I am so ready to let go of all the things that have been holding me back, like I just know like I have all these different things in my life that I need to address. Like I've come to a point where I'm ready to move forward, and I recognize that I'm holding on to a lot of stuff that I need assistance with and letting go of. So there's that. So and what I love about that program is it also brings in, which I didn't bring up here, is transformative handwriting. And so that is a way of that modality. I teach people how to change their handwriting so they're actually rewiring their subconscious mind to bring out the positive soul qualities. And so it's another sort of tool that I use. And so there's that. And that's available if anybody wants to ask me about that. I have information on that. You can go to my website, newearthconsciousness.com. If you're just like, I just want to sign up for a session, you can do that there. I also offer packages if you're wanting. I find that with it depends. Like family constellations, sometimes one session is enough, but let's say it's more complex than that, then sometimes you need 3 or you need 6 sessions to kind of really like. But I find 6 sessions you can get a lot covered in just 6 sessions. Um, I find that people move through a lot very quickly and then they're done. They don't need any more. So yeah, so you can peruse my website. There's some free resources there. You can get a free ancestral energy healing meditation. You sign up for my newsletter. Um, yeah, so that's it in a nutshell.
Nice, nice, amazing. Thank you so much for sharing. And I will put all the links below the show so that people can reach out to you. And I will definitely check out your website and book a session with you because I'm curious. I know I have so many other stuff too. I only worked for one issue a couple months ago. And I'm
Mhm.
sure many of us, all of us, have so many issues because we are born and raised with different cultures and different traumas. Everybody has traumas, so I think everybody needs what you do, and that's why I said it's a precious and very important work. And thank you so much for your presence. I enjoyed a lot our talk.
Thank you so much. Yeah, and it's so important to get support. I mean, I get my support too, like it's just part of being human, and we're not meant to heal in isolation. So it's important to connect and to be seen. There's a lot that happens. So yeah, thank you, Burko. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Tanya. Thank you so much who is tuning in our episode. Until next time, stay with joy. Thank you. If you did enjoy it, please subscribe to the Coffee O'Clock podcast on Apple and leave us a review. I would love to hear your thoughts. And if you feel like someone needs to listen to this episode, share it on your social media or text the link to that person to make an impact in their life. Be sure to tune in every Monday for new episodes. You can also watch the episodes and find more inspiration on my Instagram, which is at JOYYBURCU. Until next time, make sure to spend some time with you and stay with joy.